All right, everybody, from LCQ to Top 32, we've got Tamren Cardwell here on Pony. How was your Worlds weekend?
Our Worlds weekend was phenomenal. It was very, very, very good. From LCQ into doing great in the day one, into having one of the craziest matches in the mirror match, in my top 32 match. This weekend's been very, very awesome.
All right. Why don't you give us a little bit of a breakdown on your take on Pony? I believe you were undefeated after Swiss in top cut of Worlds, so like top 64 going into top 32. I think the only difference between you and Tim Keefe was breakers, right? So
like 3% or something like that.
Yeah, so technically could have been Swiss champ.
Could have been. Yeah, so Pony is dope. Pony's a 7-hand size, 22 health character, and her the main abilities that we focus on in the character are truthfully cycle drawing, discard 2, redraw 1, as well as spinning 3 counters to clear a card from our card pool. We want a clean card pool so we can play as many cards as we can because we are drawing cards and having extras. The real skill expression of the deck comes in whenever you want to change the zones or give plus or minus speed, but if everything is going perfect, if everything is textbook, you never give speed, you never minus speed, you never change the zone. It all just works out. And so that's Pony. Pony's been in the format for a while, but I think with the second AOT set, she has really gotten crazy because of the 4 Lethal Slash. This is undeniably the best card in the deck. A lot of people are running 3. I think 4 is mandatory because it does 2 things. As the Blitz, it says you redraw a card to help you use Pony's first ability, and it saves you 3 horn counters because it removes itself if it's the second card you play, and it's always the second card you play. Anytime that somebody opens with Lethal Slash as Pony, it's just their hand is bad. They're trying to fix it, so you should feel okay. Lethal Slash is nuts. It's teetering on the line of maybe this card is too good specifically in this character. From there, with a little bit more hand fixing, we've got Electric Moth. We'll come back here. I refer to Lethal Slash as just like a 4 damage burn spell. That is all it is, and Electric Moth is that. Kind of. It has the bonus of it gives you extra cards, but it doesn't have the bonus of that it leaves the card pool. So we have to do the heavy lifting on Pony's side here. But this is the turn extender because you turn 1 card into 2, possibly 3, possibly 4, depending on what we discard, which we'll get to in a second. But this card is also, it's just another 4 damage that they don't want to interact with. So it just like chews through health, and sometimes you never know if the turn is going to continue after an Electric Moth has fired.
Correct, yeah. And in conjunction with like what you were saying earlier about like with the extra draws that you get from some of your discard triggers, regrowing your hand size or drawing more with the Moth always helps you in that when you, like you said, things are going perfectly, it's just another attack that you're going to play without spending any counters on. And if things aren't going great, it lets you see more cards to put more counters on with Pony, so you can pump the brakes if you need to or change directions or pivot. 100%. Like if you are running into the decks whose slant towards answering Pony are tricky high blocks, like Absorbed Energy Spirit Strikes to stop your Lethal Slashes, or Showdowns to like attempt to make you play on real prog, or like at least make the 2s or 3s that you might check on your 4s that you're rolling hurt, you can go, well, I am getting close enough with your life total that I just play around Showdown now instead of clearing my card pool, and then that card gives you the extra resources to do so or generate the counters.
I didn't see a single Showdown this weekend. The next card is Battle or Release. This is one of our big bombs. This is always played at the very end, but it also is like decent on turn 2 as flip a pseudo blank foundation to redraw a card. Just fuels this hand size. I just want to dig. It's very, very strong. This is all classic. I think that you should just be playing these 12 cards in every Pony list, no matter what, whether you're on these 8 for Air Earth or these 12 for Earth. It's just mandatory. Here's where the spice gets, we get a little crazy. I'm playing double Attack Titans Haymaker for 2 reasons. Number 1, I think the perfect line of play Battle or Release Battle Aura or Moth, one of the 4 diffs, into lethal, use Pony to clear this 3rd attack Haymaker is the best opening, the best turn 2 and stop that Pony can do. And even if it is a turn 2 and you continue, this card is just another, I refer to these as burn spells. This is another burn spell because on the 3rd move, if they dealt with these at all, they can't deal with this after the stun 2. So if they were foolish enough to block this, they can't block this with stun 2 and the limitation on what cards you're allowed to use.
Correct.
It's really, really solid. And then, if you've noticed, most of our attacks are for printed. Determination just says they all get an extra, like, 20% damage increase, which is, you know, slinging these lethal slashes for 4 is not very scary. Slinging them for 5, sometimes 6, if you've kind of beat me up a little bit, is very good.
Correct. And because of the consistency of the character, and because they, like, your character, and by virtue of, like, how many attacks you can pass in a turn, if you choose to go in, you demand like respect, in that if you play this as like your first attack in a string, they have to respect it regardless. They have to respect that you could be throwing more attacks. But this could just be a way for you to enter the enhanced step, draw more cards, and if your hand's not good enough yet, you can draw the foundations to build, as well as the line that you mentioned earlier, even rolling like 2 out of 3 checks being 3. If you've built at least 3, you can pass all of those as long as at least one of your checks is a 5.
And the fact that this builds down as a foundation, there's a teammate that I had, sorry to get off my list, that was playing Brutish Swagger in this spot. 2, 3 high block. It draw a card. It draws a card always and does the stun. Like, it's draw instead of being a foundation, and the foundation has saved me so much this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
I was almost thinking like, oh man, 1-on-1, it had to be 2. It had to be 2 for sure. And then the other card that I think probably pushes this character over the limit is just Beast Summon. Beast Summon says pay 4 health while I am winning to win a little harder. It is a stun move, which is incredible off the back of the Haymaker. Stun 2 and then start Beast Summon looping. The reason that the normal turn structure is I play all of these cards to build up counters. Lethal Slashes gain you the counters instead of spending them, and then you just play as many Beast Summons as you can, just giving them all 5 damage, which again is that more than 4 breakpoint that I really care about. It's very, very solid. I've got more to say about it at the end. And then the last real attack is Falling Skies. It's a one of. The throw is cool and important. It sometimes matters. I think 9 times out of 10, it doesn't. Big shout outs to Marvin Emery from Undefeated at Locals. He is playing essentially this list, but he's playing 4 Falling Skies and not the Beast Summons. I think the Beast Summons are way better than 4 copies of Falling Sky. I think this card, at best, is very good, and at worst, really, really stinks. It's just an overstated 4 diff. I think this card can just get you out of situations so importantly. From here, we've got 4 fake attacks. They're essentially 3 check actions, which are if discarded, redraw. The other amazing thing about this card is this is a 1 low block, which same thing with the Falling Skies. For, you know, if your opponent's playing things like Walk the Dog, it's very good there. If you're forming this card, you are desperate and you are losing the game, just don't play it. Just wait for their turn so you can pitch it and grab more counters. So there's 22 attacks. Onto the actions. 3 main boarded, seizing the advantage. +2 speed, flip their problem card, build a foundation is very good, especially whenever you can clear the card pool with things like Lethal Slash. If not 4 diff, lethal, clear Haymaker, it's do that into something else, and you've built a foundation on the turn, flip the problem card, and continued off your combo. It's basically Haymaker light, if you want to talk about it. This deals with problems, this deals with very specific problems. Side it out for sideboard stuff, we'll get to that in a second. From there, we have the extra draw power of Enemies Necessary, as well as 4 copies of Feral Shriek. Both have their own purpose and merits. Any Means is the better card 9 times out of 10, strictly because it stays in your deck rather than being removed. It also, on we will get to it, Sacrifice, it's got a 5 block mod, so it just gives a little bit more damage. There were so many turns in this tournament where I would actively use things like Pony, not discarding the Enemies Necessary, so that I can whittle them down with all the spells, so that on one move I could just like pump for +5 on the Enemies and then still draw, just because it's the worst block mod in the deck.
Yeah, similarly to a lot of like other aggro decks in this game's like history, the difference between like the floor for this deck is obviously very high, right? That you can just play and roll and do fine, but the sequencing is what matters. And like those decisions in like your discard triggers or your like hitting grave triggers and like any other like death attuned deck with like an aggro slant to it is what separates like getting further in a tournament from not, right?
100%. Yeah. If you have to be able to see the lines, and as well as this deck reminds me a lot of like surfing. Because you do not actually know what the wave is going to look like whenever you go into a turn 9 times out of 10. Sometimes, you've got double battle or a double lethal slash, and you're just like, oh, I'm just like, this is perfect. But
I'm God's gift, yeah.
Sometimes you open a single moth and a beast summon. You don't have beast summon in your discard pile yet, and you have to dig and dig and dig and dig using pony and the draw cards and yada yada. It is, and you still have to get there because they have it next turn, and that is what I think is the interesting part of this deck. But that is the definition of solitaire. I'm not really caring about what you're doing. It is, can I make my line so perfect that I win? It's very Yu-Gi-Oh-esque. It's just a Yu-Gi-Oh combo deck. It's very cool. The next 4 foundations are just for push the advantage. If you clear a card, redraw. Very good on defense with Pony, because you can clear on your own turn to redraw. But honestly, it's just more draw power to fuel the fire that is the Pony engine. From here, we've got for Chivalrous. This was here for protection, because we're going to talk about Sacrifice of the Cause here in a second. This card is incredible. 9 times out of 10, I never wanted to flip for both players to draw. If you do that, it is desperate because your moves are normally slow. Again, I don't want to spend counters for speed. I want to spend counters to clear and just play all these attacks. I think overspending for counters for speed is a trap, and so I don't want to give you cards in order to block with. From here, the number 1 foundation you want to open, and it's kind of dead everywhere else, is New Training Method. The only time that New Training Method feels okay to build afterwards is because we want to pick up things like Any Means Feral Shriek or Optimal Blocks, depending on what you have. But like it's here just to play the best foundation in the deck, and it's Sacrifice for the Cause, and it's not close. All of your moves are 4 damage, and having things like these 3 in order to redraw cards is so incredibly important, and even giving 1, 3, or 5 damage is just enough to make it happen. From here, we now get to talk about Beast Summon and why I think that it is the correct choice. Beast Summon has hidden text that says if you have 30 cards in your discard pile, if you have a 3-diff committed, you may ready it. There were so many times inside of testing and inside of the event that I would check poorly and then use Beast Summoning because I have filled my discard pile on turn 2 or turn 3. I've had 30 in the discard pile. I will check bad, commit my sacrifice, use Beast Summoning to ready it up. Or even better, your opponent is Godzilla or something and they play Kraken and they know that this is the scariest card. I'll open Beast Summon, I will re-ready it after it was frozen. It is such a trick that they don't understand. As well as it stops things like referee jury at the end. There's just, this card is crazy, and this deck is going to change because building this safely is going to be harder next format.
Yeah, and I really like that specific like slant or take on it, because oftentimes like what we had somewhat discounted in like general or in testing and like our opinion of Pony is, like you said, all of them are printed 4s, right? Like you can just block the battle auras, you can just block the ones with actual damage on them, so it doesn't matter. But with the density of cards that regrow your hand when discarded in conjunction with Sack for the Cause, you can make every attack a threat. And what I like more about Beast Summoning in your deck is if you don't have Sack for the Cause as well, they have another line of things that are printed 5s that they have to worry about that also carry stun, so they are functionally 4 mid for 5s, and you can infinitely quote unquote do them based on the amount of Pony counters that you have, and it's just another axis that your opponent has to like worry about you operating on, in conjunction with like this happens oftentimes in competitive play, where I think specifically for this event it's even better because popular opinion was like, I believe Marvin's list specifically, which was not playing Beast Summoning, so a lot of people discounted the opportunity for Pony to be able to play it, and a lot of the earlier builds of Pony in the past like formats were on Beast Summoning and did not like produce as many results, and people kind of discounted that line specifically. But I believe Barlow said, like, going into Worlds, you expect everyone in the room to be playing as well as they can and very good players, so you have to pack like something as a surprise factor. And especially in the LCQ format and in the day one to decide top 32 for Worlds when there was not open deck lists, something like Beast Summoning, your opponent can play the best defense they can into Pony, like with their high block tricks, and then get punked entirely by Beast Summoning.
So in the defense of not playing Beast Summoning, the big cost about it is you do pay for health in order to activate the ability. And so if you miss, you just gave your opponent the game, right? You just gave it to them. But there's some times where like some hands are 6 foundations, a singular Beast Summon, I'm at 22 health. Oh, I have lethal now. I actually have 4 extra attacks, not to mention the dig on Pony, I'll find other attacks because, you know, I need enhanced steps in order to get there. And so I totally understand if you I won't even say the words misplay, but like get unlucky with it. It can certainly lose you games, and it did this weekend. It totally did. But I think that you win more games than you lose whenever you play the lines.
Correct. And it's another one of those things where like you can't ever really quote unquote brick with it necessarily, because if they're in your hand, you just pitch them. And if they're not in your hand, you can pick them up. So you just have to see one, and I noticed that's why you're playing 3 instead of 4, just because you just need the one, and then you can start the engine going. And having extra cards in hand, like we were saying, like rebuying, regrowing, is just like so important to be able to generate those counters. So like even if your line does not require you to loop Beast Summoning at the cost of 4 health puts a card in your hand. So it's like fake draw.
The other funny thing about Beast Summon, we'll put it back on screen. The other funny thing about Beast Summon is if you do have 2 of them, you can just discard one of them to Pony and pick it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so it's like an extra draw. Like this card is so crazy when it works. And I don't even want to classify it as like a win more card. It is a win condition card. Yeah. Truthfully. Like it is so strong.
Yeah, it's just an alternate axis to operate on.
Yeah. Up next we've got 23 Pro here. It's another 6 check, which we'll talk about eventually. It's +1 speed, essentially after you've played 2 attacks in the game, and you are good at counter management, which says that now my 4 damage burn spells have a harder time being interacted with even more. Not only did you not want to, but if you have to, you can't. As well as the response redraw, because there's so many times that you'll draw a foundation that is not actively effective, that you can review and then dig a little deeper in order to. Because remember, you have to enter the enhanced step in order to make the Pony magic happen. Cards crazy. Up next, this is a meta choice. I'm playing for high value target. I expected Godzilla to be here. If somebody blew up my board, I wanted to rebuild so that I could kill them. If Godzilla blows up my board and I have 2 of these out, I keep 2. I play, seize the advantage. I have 3 foundations. I can, if I just check 5s on everything, I'll kill you still. This is the idea behind this, as well as it's just blocking power. Again, I never wanted to use minus speed, so if I have 1 card count for 2, then we're feeling even better. Up next, 1-man Inferno. This card is in here twofold. It is in here, number 1, to mess with Krista and Byakko. If they try to stack things, you tell them, we'll both mill 1, no thank you. And this card also has to be in your discard pile, and once 30. There are so many turns where I have had Beast Summoning in my hand and had just like classic lines, and I go, if I find Beast Summoning, it's just checkmate. So on every enhance, I will 1-man Inferno. It's another reason that I like the Aaron's Determination over top of the others, is because this card says on every attack of the game I can also mill 1. So if I have 1 in hand, I'm constantly milling until I find it, or the 30, in order to activate the Beast Summon. It has absolutely. I think it won me my last game to get in, versus in the mirror matches I had to have 1-man Inferno. From here, number 10 Pro Hero. It's a blank card. It's meant to be flipped off of Battle Aura. It's just stats. And then into the 1-ofs, we've got 1 Forcing Surrender, Runaway, and Cheerful Uppercut are annoying. And so being able to clear the card out of your card pool is very good. Quick Response says Destroy. Your high attack gets +2 speed, and then it is I believe it's the only card that says the word Deadlock in my deck. You technically have Moth as a deadlock threat. That card is good enough that makes them actively not want to go to 10 or more foundations. This is the number 1 card that I was thinking about taking out for the event. And I whenever we get to the sideboard, we'll talk. I didn't have any real time to make changes, and so I decided to leave it in because I knew that I would be able to talk about it. This card is the sole reason that I won one of my games versus Chris Smith inside of day 1 in order to run the undefeated bracket. It was all off the back of quick response, and I wanted to cut it, and I didn't. In fact, I even cited it out, lost the game, cited it back in, and then won. It was like I just this card made its home in the deck for sure. And then the last card is just incredible display. It would be more if I had room. This is the card I was thinking about cutting for it. Just put it at 2 of. I think 2 is the max because momentum is hard to get. But the coolest thing that you can do with this card, truthfully, is you have a 3-card hand with something that you want to keep. For example, I want to keep One-Man Inferno. You're allowed to block with something, respond, pick it back up, then pony these 2 cards away. And then you redraw a fresh one and you still have the card that you liked, rather than I block and then I'm stuck and I can't use pony.
Yeah, and to that same point, like momentum in pony is quote unquote hard to get, but only insofar as you are trying to roll them in the turn that you are going in and getting those attacks, and every attack that hits them, generally speaking, winds up cleared unless you like sputter out and are done. And incredible display in this format, outside of picking up block mods, is used to fight response wars against a deck that like your hedge for that deck is just killing them before they can.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fine to have as a one of. I like that card in general, and I think it should be somewhere in your list. And one of in the main board seems fine. And we're going on your sideboard right now, and I see at least one right there.
Yeah. So sideboard. So this is the sideboard that I took for the LCQ because, like I said, I genuinely didn't have time after the LCQ to make a change to my sideboard. The only change that I would have is put the incredible display in the main, and I didn't have a 10th card that I wanted to take out or put in its spot. So I was like, we'll just run it as is. So one more incredible display. It came in pretty much every single match. This card is very, very good. Honestly, it's just like rebuying blocks and whatnot. Canceling responses is really important. It's just a grade A card. If you don't have your playset, you got to pick them up. From here, again, this is an LCQ list. I thought there were going to be ponies all over the place in the LCQ, and so Great Buckler just stops that thing from stops the clearing from happening. And a lot of the whole tournament tonight, this is probably the most #1 sideboarded card in the entire event. This card is very, very efficient, but it does have the downside of if I get a momentum, your Great Buckler is useless. And so it does ask you to present a puzzle of you have to play good defense. I'm not just going to let you have it for free. I think this is one of the coolest, best designed cards that Universus Games has made in a long, long time when it comes to active disruption for a silver bullet to stop a deck. It's very, very cool. From here, this other pony tech we had was Berserker Bite. I didn't think anybody else was on this, but I absolutely had my top 32 opponent side these in against me, and I was like, oh no, I don't know how to play against Berserker Bite.
They know.
If you have Great Buckler plus Berserker Bite versus a pony on turn 2, it's a 0% chance that they kill you. With lock the card in the card pool, all your stuff gets +1 difficulty. They're now playing on 6s guaranteed. They just can't do it. This card also is a 4 difficulty to fight Attack Titan's Haymaker and a 3 difficulty to fight Besieged. Anytime that you had to put these in, you just take the Beast Summons out. This is just a 1-for-1 swap.
Nice.
And then the last card, nice and easy, is Referee Jury. This card is just, hey, I have to survive against Godzilla or Byakko. Your moves are just too big, and so we just swap out the seizings as well. These go in, these come out, and it's nice and clean.
Yeah, and a lot of the time post-board, when people are bringing in answers to you, it is similar stuff to what you were saying, like Great Bucklers and the throw there. So like, if they stop you and you peter out, at least you have been filtering for probably 1, if not 2 enhanced steps.
Absolutely.
And if you find your Referee Jury, you get to play some fictitious amount of defense as a 7-hander with only 22 health, and you don't have to use your counters.
I played in the teams event that we just went 5-0 in as well with the same list.
Brag more.
I played a Godzilla, and they were trying to kill me on turn 2, and I drew double Referee Jury, and they had a singular Great Buckler on their stage. They played the Walk the Dog. I have the Jury in the card pool. I have 1 Ready Foundation as well. I flip the Jury, I commit the thing that they were supposed to stun, and I commit their Great Buckler, and I almost killed them on the backswing. I might have killed them on the backswing. But like the slight disruption that it has as well also is very good. because the silver bullets are so strong against my character, if you mess up and you leave one thing open, it is possible referee, jury, and slash or like a haymaker will be the thing that finishes.
Yeah, correct. And like also on turn one, in addition to like being able to use the disruption effect on jury, it doesn't matter if some of the foundations that you draw are only good if you discard them or don't have like relevant card text, because if they're in your stage, you can just flip them for jury.
100%.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tam. Incredible run this weekend. Congratulations, and we'll see you around.
See you, buddy.